Hi, I'm Justin, and in this video, I'm going to tell you all about Trustpilot's Invitation Optimizer. Invitation Optimizer helps you A/B test your review invitations so you can collect more reviews more consistently. At a high level, Invitation Optimizer lets you test two things that matter most for invitation conversion: what your invitation says and when it gets sent. Instead of guessing, you get real data that shows what actually works for your audience. Let's start by quickly reviewing A/B testing and how Invitation Optimizer uses A/B tests to improve your invitation conversion rate. Now, half of your invitations go to version A. Let's say that's the new thing that you're testing. We measure the conversion rate of version A in real time. The other half goes to version B. Let's call that your control or the existing version. And we measure the conversion rate of version B in real time. Now, as we collect results, we're always looking at how much test data we have and our confidence that the results are statistically significant. As soon as we detect a statistically significant result, we can declare a winner of the test. Now let's walk through how to set up an invitation A/B test. I'm going to go to Invitations and then Invitation Optimizer. Now on this screen, there's a few things happening. First, I want to point out that at the bottom of the screen are all of my previous tests. We'll ignore that for now. I'm going to focus on this button and I'm going to click Create an A/B test. And here I get to choose what type of test I want to run. As I mentioned, you can test two different things. First, you can test your invitation template, or you can choose a send delay. A send delay is how many days after a customer's experience the invite is sent. For this experiment, we're going to test an invitation template. Here on this screen, the only thing I need to do is give my test a name. So I'll just call it my test because this is a demo. And then I can click Next. And here's where I choose my template. Again, I'm testing the template in this test. So I'm going to click Browse Templates. I'm just going to click this first template here, which I've uploaded previously. I'll click Select Template. And now you can see a comparison of the two things that I'm going to test. I have my variant here on the left, which is a new layout, and I have my existing version or the control version here on the right. So Trustpilot is going to test these two layouts against each other and see which one generates a higher conversion rate. For the next step, I'm going to click Next. Now this screen is here to help you understand how long your test might run. Now obviously, tests depend on data and the conversion rate. And so the general rule of thumb is if you're testing something that is a big change, like we are in this test where we're testing two different versions of the layout, we can usually detect big changes quicker. So in this case, if you click on 2 weeks, this will tell you about how long the test will run. So we can see, based on your data, the conversion rate, the invitation sent, approximately when the test will end. Now, if you're testing small things, very minute changes, for example, if you're just changing the subject of the email, those types of changes may take longer. And the reason is they may take longer because we need more data in order to statistically detect a change in the results. Again, we're using your conversion rate and your review volume to estimate how long. So if you click on 6 weeks, this will give you an estimate of when the test might end. Now, if you're testing something that's kind of in the middle, it's not a big change and it's not a very small change, we're trying to give you an estimate with a balanced view here. So if you click in the middle, this will give you some idea about when the test might end. So again, this screen is to help you understand approximately when your test will end. So let's click Next to go to the next step in the process. Okay, here we have a summary of our test that includes the name, what we're testing, and on the right you can see our test variation along with our control version. To launch my test, I just click Launch. Here we have a quick summary of what to expect next, and we go back to our dashboard, and our test is active. Let's quickly look at test results. All of your tests and all of the test results can be found in the Invitation Optimizer section of Trustpilot. Now, within the results, I want to point out a few things. At the top, the first thing you'll notice is there's a nice, clear explanation of the results of the test. And this will tell you if the test has reached statistical significance. Now, we're not going to automatically end the test for you, but we will tell you when the test reaches statistical significance, and then you can stop the test. Now, at the bottom of the screen, you'll see all of the data about the test. This includes the conversion rate, click-through rates, open rates, and the difference between the control and the test. So you have a very detailed breakdown of how the variant and the control each performed in the test. Now let's go a little deeper and talk about some of the things you might want to test. We'll start with testing layout changes. When you do a layout test, start with something dramatic. As I mentioned before, it's easier to detect a winner quickly when you're testing big changes. This might be dramatic changes to your layout or to your language, or perhaps to the call to action. Now, once you get some wins, you can start to refine the layout and test smaller things, perhaps something as small as the subject line or the first line of text. Now let's look at testing the send delay. This is a lot easier than testing a layout because you don't need to change anything other than the send delay. Remember, big changes make it easier to detect a winner. So when you're testing a send delay and you want to do something dramatic, start with meaningful change, something like 14 days versus 7 days, not 14 days versus 13 days. Those big changes will help you get a result faster. And as you narrow down on the sweet spot of when to send an invitation, you can move from testing bigger changes to smaller changes. Now, the last thing I want to stress is that testing is a process. It's something you continuously do to refine your performance. So here's a very basic testing plan you may want to follow. Perhaps you start with testing a send delay. As mentioned before, there's very little setup for the send delay. You can start with a dramatic change, like 14 days, and then narrow it into something smaller. Then you can move into testing the template, again, starting with dramatic changes and then refining the layout over time. That's an overview of Trustpilot's Invitation Optimizer. To learn more, please visit our Help Center. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.